What if the future wasn't a single path, but a choice? A choice between two, well, profoundly different ways of life. Today, we're exploring a pretty radical vision called Project Aqua. And it forces us to decide what we really value more: rigid, predictable order or a more fluid kind of freedom. Let's dive in.
So the source material for this whole thing kicks off with this image, and it is powerful. You see this figure, their mind is literally glowing with potential, but they're sitting inside a cage, and that cage is being held by a skeletal hand. This isn't just some cool artwork, it's a metaphor for our current situation, a cage we've built for ourselves out of the very systems that were supposed to protect us.
And really, that brings us to the one question that frames this entire explainer. What if those very systems, the ones built for safety and order, have actually become our prison?
Okay, so our journey here starts with understanding the promise of the system we're all living in right now. At its very core, it offers a pretty simple deal: trade a little bit of chaos for a whole lot of order, security, and control.
This isn't a new trade-off. It's an ancient impulse, really, born from a deep human fear of chaos. The flood, the famine, the plague. Civilization itself is just our long attempt to manage the unpredictable. But this is the critical question, isn't it? What is the price we pay for all that order? The ultimate expression of this need for control has a name: technocracy. It's the rule by experts, by systems, by rational management. It's this fundamental belief that you can engineer society just like you'd engineer a machine.
And this slide just perfectly illustrates the result of that thinking. What we're looking at is a figure of power, but it's not made of flesh and blood. It's made of dollar signs, legal codes, and industrial machinery. This is the system of centralized corporate and state power. And just like the image suggests, its foundations are maybe starting to crack a little. To give this abstract system a voice, the source material actually personifies it. Speaking as the corporation, it says this: I could make men do things to other men they thought sinful, abhorrent, and cruel, but they still did them. Wow, that's a pretty chilling summary of detached systemic power, isn't it?
Now, this impulse to measure and manage the world, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's been evolving for millennia. You can trace its path from ancient Egypt, where priests tracked the Nile's floods to try to control chaos, all the way to Han China, where a whole merit-based bureaucracy was built to harmonize the cosmos. Then it evolved again during the Enlightenment, which tried to redesign society as this rational machine, which leads us directly to today, with our global systems run by experts, all promising efficiency and progress.
So what are the actual bars of this cage we're talking about? Well, the source describes a world where giant corporations become these inefficient gatekeepers, where our culture gets kind of bland and inoffensive, and our jobs become safe, yeah, but also incredibly routine. We end up in this cycle of selling our labor just to survive, basically splitting ourselves in two.
Okay, but the story doesn't end there. A change is coming. And it's not from some loud, dramatic revolution. No, it's from a quiet leakage of power, as new tools begin to seep through the cracks in the system's walls.
Now, what's so cool about this slide is how it visualizes this massive shift. You see technology itself evolving, right? It's going from a tool of rigid, top-down control, the screw and the circuit board, into something organic, decentralized, and branching: a network.
And here's the crucial point. This change isn't coming from the old centers of power. It's leaking through the cracks with all these new tools. I'm talking about things like open source AI that anyone can build on, peer-to-peer energy grids that don't need a central power company, and distributed ledgers, think crypto, that cut out the big banks. By their very nature, these things weaken the center and give power to the edges.
At the very heart of Project Aqua's vision is a new philosophy they call equitism. So instead of a single company owning a forest, imagine that forest gets tokenized. People in the local community could own those tokens, and that would give them both a share of the profits from the forest and a vote in how it's managed. It's a way to fundamentally democratize both wealth and power.
The second key concept, which really builds on that first idea, is fluidity. Now, this isn't about chaos, it's about resilience. It's the ability for systems to adapt and change without completely breaking. Imagine a world where communities can try out different rules and structures, and you have the freedom to choose which one to join, to leave, or even to create a totally new one that works better for you. That's the promise of a fluid society. So what would life actually feel like in this new fluid age?
Well, the final part of this explainer paints a really vivid picture of what might be possible once we unlock that cage. And this image, it gives us a little glimpse into that future. It's not some chrome and steel dystopia, is it? It's a vision of calm, self-reliant communities living in harmony with the natural world. It imagines a future built on a kind of quiet abundance. This future is described through what the source calls a series of everyday miracles. I mean, imagine homes that are basically self-sufficient, that print their own replacement parts, a world where survival is automated, which frees all of us up to create, where the whole goal of life shifts from success to flourishing, and leisure time is something everyone can actually enjoy. In this kind of world, the massive centralized structures we have today, big cities, big governments, they don't collapse in some big apocalyptic disaster. Instead, they just dissolve. They become irrelevant because small, self-reliant, and digitally connected communities become the new norm. And this brings us right to the climax. This isn't a prediction of some guaranteed future. It is a choice, a decision that we are all collectively facing right now. And here are the two paths, laid out side by side. You have the integrated world, which continues down this road of centralized control. It's efficient, it's predictable, but it's also heavily monitored. And then you have the fluid world. It's distributed, it's diverse, it's more humane and creative, but yeah, it's also more improvisational, a little more messy. So we end right back where we started, at the cage. The system we have now, it gave us order. It gave us a defense against chaos. A new, fluid world offers us freedom. According to Project Aqua, the door to that cage is now open. The only question left is, which way do we walk?